One of my viewers from a Victory Motorcycle forum site asks, Paul, could you make a video on how to construct a quarter-turn throttle ring? A quarter-turn throttle ring is simply an adapter used inside your throttle housing of your motorcycle to increase the circumference in order to reduce the amount of twist needed to ride your bike. It just so happens I have one here that I purchased last year. I haven't installed it in my bike, of course, because it's winter time here and my bike is stored in the garage. But I can use it to make my measurements. I went to the local hardware store and picked up a coupler. This is for an electrical conduit. It's a PVC coupler, 1 inch in size, and it happens to be almost identical to the purchased one that I have. And all we have to do is simply modify it. I happen to have a woodworking shop in my house. So for this, I'm going to use the table saw. Now normally I wouldn't use a tiny piece like this on a big table saw. It'd be dangerous. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a jig. A jig is used to help you make something else. I made previously a little jig for my drill press, and I used this for the wooden dowel used in my trunk rack mount for my wall that I made outside of my garage. And I'm going to use the same one on the table saw to rest the coupler in, and I can cut around it safely. So let's get started doing that. So this is my old table saw. I made a table saw sled. This just simulates a moving tabletop. It just makes it easier to cut heavy pieces of wood, cuts them faster, better, and straighter. I'm going to use this sled with my jig. I'm going to use a block of wood as a stop that I can put my coupler up against it, and it will always stay in line with the blade. I don't want my sled to move any farther back than right about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the clamp and I'm going to put it right at the front of my sled, clamp it down so it will always stop when it hits the table saw. It'll always stop in the same place and it won't go any farther because my hands are going to be here. I'm going to raise my blade so it just touches the bottom of the coupler. I would rather start with it a little on the low side and work my way up if I have to, than initially cut too deep. I'm going to use a clamp, push down on it, tighten it onto the back. That will keep this jig from moving, leaving me enough room to use my stop block and the coupler and place it where I need it to go. I fed the jig into the saw blade in order to make my initial cut, and now everything will be lined up with that. I'm going to use this square and I'm going to line it up to the left side of the hole where the blade made, and I'm going to scribe a line using a knife. A knife is a lot more accurate than a pencil is. So that line represents the left side of the blade. The thickness of the throttle ring is 0.28 inches wide. My kerf of my blade is 0.1 inches wide. I want it in the center, so I'm going to need 0.09 inches on both sides. I've dialed up 0.09 inches on my caliper. The little part extruding out is 0.09 inches from the edge. I'm going to put the little pin right on that line that I drew, and I'm going to put my coupler in and move it over till it touches the body of the caliper. I can now put my stop block in, rest it up against the right side of the caliper, and fasten it down. So my blade is set to the proper height. I've got my table saw sled that will stop right at the right point. My stop block is anchored down, so it's 0.09 inches into the coupler. And if I find after I score around it that it's not deep enough, then I'll just simply raise the blade a hair and do it again. You can see the channel is starting. I think I'll go up a bit more to make it a little deeper. Now that I got a nice channel on the coupler, I'm going to move it over to 0.28 from the line that I drew. This is the thickness of the throttle ring, and I will move my stop block over to accommodate that. I'll raise my blade up so it cuts all the way through to the middle, and I will spin it around and cut my ring off. Well, there it is, a nice quarter turn throttle ring made out of PVC. And I've got enough left over, I could make another 4 for 69 cents. One of the advantages of having it out of PVC is that I've read in some of the forum sites where people had to actually modify their throttle housing, make the slot wider for the aluminum one to fit into because it was just too tight. You won't have that problem with this. If this one is just a bit too tight, you simply bring it over to some sandpaper and you sand it down both sides until it fits. Now I know some people are going to say, why bother doing all of this for a relatively inexpensive piece of hardware? Well, the fact is some places it's not inexpensive. Some people live in areas where by the time they pay their shipping, their exchange rate, any brokerage fees, it makes it overpriced for what it's worth. And you know, personally, I like making my own stuff. It's not about the money, it's just about the satisfaction of knowing you made it yourself. Somebody had to make it, why not me? Now I understand I've got a workshop here. I've got a table saw and a band saw that I can make these things with. The point that I was trying to get was with the proper jig, I could have made a jig that fit on a handsaw and do the same thing. Granted, it would take a little longer. I could make one of these things in under 5 minutes. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Thank you for watching my videos. I really hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making them. If you like my videos, please hit that big red subscribe button down at the bottom and give that like button a click too. Thank you very much. And hey, be safe.